For participants there.
Good evening, everybody.
Only for the
Thank you for joining 22nd Madurai International Documentary and Short Film Festival. We are having a series of online discussions as part of the film festival. We just started at around 4 o'clock with the Tamil filmmakers. This is our second discussion today with Farah Khatun, whose film Holy Red we are showing. And we have Deepu with us who will discuss with the Farah about this particular film, and then the context and background and everything. So I invite both Deepu and Farah. I also invite Priyanka More, the producer of the film. I also invite other friends who will be joining soon. So let me hand over the mic to Pradeep Deepu. Deepu, you can take it
yes.
forward.
I'm so happy, Amadan, that you have given, to have an interaction with Faha. I've seen her earlier film also, and I'm really happy actually to sit here and have a conversation with Faha. Somewhere I really like the way you started the film with that kite flying sequence and the kids who is on the top of that entire thing. The film also have some relationship with that, I feel. And initially, several people who will join us or like who has watched the film, I'll initially get into this entire the filmmaking part of it because I like certain kind of treatment which you gave because this film is not a very polished film. In that manner. So, say, most of the film, the film actually majorly uses a handheld camera and not really, very, tripod and the polished shots or anything like that. Uh, and as a director, she tried to create a personal space with the characters much more than I feel that her earlier film, one film which I have watched. And so, it was an interesting watch for me. And I have few questions. I'll actually initially will ask you some questions of filmmaking as such aspect of it. Because story is both film and the content. So I was quite intrigued. Why you actually tried to use a handheld camera. I'll come into it later because and certain editing decisions in the film. So why did you decide? Because most of the shots is not really polished shots, which you can see. Because in Indian documentary filmmaking also, since the entry of the foreign funding like film festival funding and shaping the character of Indian documentary filmmaking, it much more tried to run away to the fictional filmmaking style in terms of very polished kind of a landscape. But you didn't do it. Why that choice?
That's really a good question. But before I start answering, I want to thank Amudan for including my film to 22nd Madurai International Film Festival. Thank you, Deepu, for such a wonderful introduction. About the camera, I think since I started conceptualizing the uh, whole film, this film is not actually a film but rather a journey for me. So that journey is not stable. It was always unstable. It is unstable till now, and it will be unstable for, I think, for many years, maybe we cannot imagine. So the spaces we try to enter in the film are are not easy to get into. So uh, for me, that trying to get into a space which is prohibited otherwise, I preferred this kind of treatment in the camera. And mm, the kind of spaces we were in, I don't think, even if I would have thought about camera with a tripod, I wouldn't have been able to do that, because those are cozy spaces. And if you remember, there was a sequence on the rooftop, those in those places, with lot of equipments, it wouldn't helped us to capture those moments. Rather, we tried to almost as much as possible disappearing ourselves, and try to be part of the whole conversation, try to be part of the tensions that are going through. So that's why I think I chose this.
And there is actually something which I observed, is that there is observatory and conversation.
Sorry?
There is observatory and conversations,
Yeah.
which is strength of the film as far as I'm concerned. And so, you actually shift from two different kind of forms in that manner. And your conversation, you are intrigued with certain circumstances which is happening, and then you are having conversation with her. And then you are actually looking at what is happening there. So these are the two ways in which the film travels, as we say, the way I see it. It didn't try to be like completely observatory or not intervene in that, and it actually revealed quite a bit of things, and I can understand your, and as far as Safia is concerned. Why did you restrict Safia only to the fight?
So the fight means in the
There are two scenes in the film. One is
with the journalist.
very romantic about she's talking about her husband in the crowd, and so there are two scenes like that where he is actually ironing and other things where he come back and their personal life. You didn't try to enter into their personal life much more detail. And cuteness of life, or like it is actually quite difficult for a Muslim woman in that manner to come out in that manner without such kind of a support structure. Also, there is suggestive scenes telling that there is a different relationship. Not only Muslim, I'll say that in Hindu or in extreme patriarchal society, any woman in that manner. So what was that? How did you the character you want to present to us in that?
While shooting this, no, I call Safia Appa and her husband Uncle. So this is our relationship. But whenever I see Uncle, he is a different kind of person, as we see through the film also. The kind of patriarchal society we actually think of, he is a little bit different. And I think he had a major role in whatever Safia Appa is doing. And his support is a lot for Safia Appa, because she is a mother of 4 children, and then she continuously does this social work for many years, and her choices was always supported by her husband. And when we talk about patriarchal society, all men are not patriarchal, and I think Uncle is one of them. He is very simple, sweet, and he's quite transparent in expressing his thoughts about Safia Appa. So I think, I think I couldn't restrict myself than exploring more about him and their relationship. I think it added to the film in terms of showing our society in general.
There is one more thing, like, say, when you are speaking about uncle and auntie and personal spaces of women in that manner, you actually do a very interesting cut for me from the Madina song to Chaudhary Ka Chand. It was like one of my favorite in that manner. It revealed quite a bit. Okay. So, you know, what what is your thoughts, when you did that, and what you really want to tell? And it's actually fascinating for me because that cut is like,
Uh-huh. I think we had a very experienced editor on board. His name is Sanko, and he has edited many award-winning films. And when we were, editing this particular sequence, so the thought was we need to lighten the moment, because just before that song we have gone through that traumatic description of our, by a mother about her daughter, how she died and all. So we we needed something to, lighten up the whole situation, and then we can go to a, further uh, uh, discussion. And again we come back to, how life in general, we, of course, we go through a lot of traumas and everything, and again, we have to overcome all these, and we have to live life as it comes to us. So so yeah, that's why that song. And yes, it shows a very intimate space of women, how they celebrate their time, how they try to overcome their personal sorrows through these very small moments.
for me, it actually, broken the entire stereotype image of Muslim woman in that manner. And so that was a brilliant. Actually, I really enjoyed that sequence, that cut actually, very interestingly, which actually gave another side. It's not like, for example, Muslims generally consider the country as only, religious and whatever kind of thing, and the entire Burqa debates to even triple talaq debate, which you didn't actually much touch upon. We'll come into that later. And there's another thing is like, I have seen actually, as an editor cinematographer, and when I look at it, I see that there is an existence of camera. As a cinematographer, I really love it, and it actually, go into spaces, and especially in that all the women who sit together and she's actually speaking to them by, why is she, why they are doing, and she's asking people, what do you do? I'm doing tailoring, and those sequences actually, you try to decide to not to polish it. You could have polished it, just that inserting the cuts and, you know cutaways and other things, but you could have polished it. But instead of it, you actually, as if like I am trying to look at a new person. So the camera shift the focus and it takes time. And I'm trying to look at who the person is. Uh, and that is actually, the film doesn't have cuts, which is really not choppy in that manner. It actually makes the camera to reach there, then the cut happens. So, do you want us also to look at that way, the way you looked at?
Yes, of course. As I said in the beginning, it was a journey for me. And then I had two wonderful camera persons who worked through this path with me. One is Debolina, you know her, she's very experienced and magnificent filmmaker. And another person is Priyanka. So while capturing those moments, we didn't really discussed a lot. We I hardly gave them any instruction to shoot this way or that way, but before before going to the shoot, we had a long conversations, and both of them are very good friends of mine. I spend a lot of time with them, and they they know why I am making this film, what is my agenda behind making this film. So I think, although we discussed how I want to see the whole thing, but they both of them has major role in shaping of the cinematic look. In terms of my this particular film, they have a major role in this. So yeah, in the post also, we tried to include that the way we saw while shooting, we tried to include those moments in the edit, so that our audience also see the way we have seen those people, those persons.
Hmm. So, it's a very complex time you are telling this story, actually. The reason is that Sharia bill, look at the entire triple talaq bill, and the way right wing is trying to use uh, the entire, you know, the idea of triple talaq. So, political context is different than, actually, I'll say that our Deepa did a film on the entire movement in Tamil Nadu. It was a different time in which you are speaking about. So, how did actually the political context affected in shaping the story?
uh, the politics behind this whole agenda of speaking about women was always there. Maybe it changes its color, but it's uh, maybe it's becoming more harsh, but it was never easy for any women, any women who are trying to find their places in the mainstream. uh, but I would say that the whole debate of triple talaq has failed to see the what Muslim women have gone through actually. It's a lot more than just triple talaq. It's a more complexity of the laws that the women have gone through. It's triple talaq, and then it's polygamy, and there are many aspects. And in general, you know, the women who has been taken for granted for years by men, you know, and also the people. I'm including also women here who are from patriarchal mindset. So women have been victim of these practices for years, and the politics of these practices, I don't know how long will it remain, uh, but it's just it changes its color, but it's always there. We have to fight a long way to overcome that. Yeah, I don't have really much words to, I cannot conclude this. This is something which is ongoing. This will stay. The fight is becoming harder. Muslim women are much more cornered in this difficult time. It will take time, a lot more time than we ever expected.
So, it's like both ways. One is the right wing, both men and women, as well as within the patriarchal system within the Muslim community, which has been cornered. So it means multiple
Yeah.
you know, it's a much more a larger struggle, like a Dalit woman or like a Muslim woman which faces. And you know, look, uh, but at the same time, there is another crisis which I feel like, you know, for example, we are actually standing at Love Jihad bill right now. Okay. And so, you know, there is this entire identity of like lustful, polygamous Muslim men. Okay.
Polygamous Muslim men.
Yeah, polygamous. Like, yeah, that is basically the images, na? You
Yeah.
can marry three
Hmm.
times. And I know I have a lot of Muslim friends also, and they are not that way. There are even Hindu men also is like that, you
Mm.
know.
Yeah.
And there are. Okay, it's not like we can't say that only Muslim men is having polygamous relationship. You know,
Mm.
men in Hindu community, Christian community, several people, you know, have polygamous relationship. But this image, which the uh, right wing government tried to bring in actually, and the continuation was love jihad.
Mm.
So they had a different idea about this entire bill which they brought in about triple talaq. Okay, so in the middle of it, you are placing the film. You understand? You are actually placing this film in a very, very difficult political context. That's why I told that your film is different context than actually Deepa's earlier film about Muslims fighting, Muslim women fighting in Tamil Nadu. And how do you think that, you know, it takes it forward? You know, because there is left feminism and, you know, they were the champions earlier in the earlier period. Then actually we are actually seeing a genre of you know Muslim feminism in this film, you know,
Mm.
which is based on Quran, the rights of Quran, not like, you know, marriage and family to the entire feminist theories in 70s or anything like that.
Mm.
So how do you think that it's going to go forward and politically contextualize in a country like India
Hmm.
right now?
You know, I would say love is love, and nothing can restrict it. So when two adult persons are in love, they will pursue the way they can. But these stereotypical words, people think that Muslim men can marry 4 times and all. mm, I would say, which was also my exploration, working with Safia Appa and the other person in
Uncle.
the MMA uncle, yeah, with all of them, and my father and my nanu and the other person in my family. I didn't really came across any person who is really close to me have this mindset of marrying 4 times. So I would say that I agree, it's there. I don't disagree to it. It's there. So it's a mindset to exploit women. It has nothing to do with religion. And in our film also there's a small conversation during this Qazi training process where uh, they explain that if you want to marry 4 times, it's not easy. There is a rule, and if you follow those rules, and if you follow Islam, then you have to follow those rules. Then it is really hard to get married twice. So these words to stereotype a community, I think we have to now really rethink about it. I think uh, and whoever will see this video, I want to tell all of them to know little more about the whole law, what it says, and those who practices it, I think they don't follow Islam. So rather saying them or uh, what would I say? Telling them as Muslim men, we rather should say that men with very extreme uh, patriarchal mindset who wants to practice this, they just want to use these kind of things to fulfill their agenda in life. So yeah, I mean, in this film we tried to talk about all those, and all men are not not
No, it's
saying.
not only Muslim man. It's
It's in
every
general.
religion there are men.
Yeah, I mean,
That
it's
is
not
men.
religion, it's patriarchal mindset. I would not say men because I have many friends who are men who are, you know, extremely helpful. They are feminists, and they are a big support to me. I have seen my father how he supports my mother in everything. I have seen my nanu who was extremely supportive. My nani didn't have, had to change her name. She is still Jobeda Khatun. She is not Jobeda Bibi. She is more than 70 now. And they did it in that era. And my nani is only, she studied till 6th standard, and my nanu passed 10th standard. They did it in that time. So yeah, it's a lot more different than what mainstream media shows us and what other people in general think about uh, Muslim community. And also one more thing I want to add in this is uh, people love to people has this particular what should I say, they love, mainstream media love to show Muslims with caps, Muslims with burqa, Muslims with hijab. There are a lot more Muslim women out there, Muslim men out there who is not uh, not, I would not say identical. I don't know what would be the exact word, with whom we will not understand by their dress, and it's the Indian
Stereotypes which
culture.
is constructed by the society,
Right,
by
it's
the right
it's
wing.
just, yeah, it's just the Indian culture. We don't, we have many Hindu friends, we don't see them with tilak, but
Yeah.
we know we have many Muslim friends also, we don't see them with skull cap. So I mean, we need to rephrase all these with especially the mainstream media. And yesterday I was telling a friend that uh, there was a journalist who discussed this few 2 years back in a conference. She went to UP for a election coverage, and she was asked to shoot some Muslim women. Then she said, I found somebody. Then she sent the picture, and they said, but she doesn't look Muslim. So she fought back because she was also a Muslim person, Muslim journalist who was not in burqa while covering this, but the so-called mainstream media channel wants women to wear burqa for their, I don't know what their agenda is. So they also need to think, they also need to help to restructure our our whole mindset to uh, we need to develop our mindset towards any particular community, whether it is Dalit, whether it is Muslim, whether it is women in general, or any backward classes. We need to rethink.
One more thing the film politically did for me is that it's actually redefined the way the society started looking at Quran. Because the way actually, the first time when the arrest happened of several of those young boys who's actually after 7 years they got released, under several drug Tada was the beginning, and Tada Pota, and now UAPA. There was one of the things which the police have actually taken custody of was something called Quran. It was something called a terrorist text. That's where actually from 2000 middle of 2000, 2005 onwards, the way, even when it was Congress government, the way it got derived. And actually film gives a very different look at Quran, actually. Okay, so a democratic society and the existence of Quran, there is two elements in terms of in her conversations. So it was really interesting, and it was a very somebody who doesn't know Quran, you know, re, to look at what exactly this text is. Actually, the film gives. Politically, it was very important. Congratulations for you to doing that. That is the extreme political relevance I see in the film. And how do you look at it? Like this woman looking at, and I know because I think that she was reacting to you when she was doing the namaz. Am I
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And how do you look at it?
Safia Appa is someone very different to me. She is a hardcore believer. She knows Quran really well. She knows everything about Quran, everything. You know, she's that educated. So that's why she started this fight that those who are misinterpreting Quran, she should speak up and she should, show her standpoint towards that. But at the same time, she might disagree with what I am in general, but she will never abandon me as a person. She will scold me as Appa, but she will protect me also, from everything. So she is that kind of person. She accepts everybody the way they are. She might criticize, but she will not left them.
There's an interesting sequence in your film where actually that entire meeting which is happening in Kolkata by that All India personal
Yeah, Muslim personal law board.
law board and that meeting. Actually, there you bring women being actually perpetrators of this entire idea what the men speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. And was it an obvious choice or something which you got on the journey? And how do you look at it within the community? And you can speak about your community quite well because I know, you have been a rebel, and so yeah.
The thing is, when we went to Maidan, that was happening in Park Circus Maidan. So when we went, it was men all around, and me and Debolina Di and one more person from our team was there. So we were shooting, and Priyanka also joined. We had double camera set up for that particular this thing. But it was men all around, and they are talking about women issues. They are talking for their sister, mother, the way we phrase women in general, kisi ki maa, kisi ki behan, kisi ki beti, rather than just women. So they were talking about that, and after a point, we were wherever we were looking, it's just men, men, men. Then we started searching where the women are. Then we finally arrived, at this corner. Let's say if it was filled by around 5,000 people, only around less than 1,000 women were there, and those women also, they refused to speak with us about their rights. They prefer their, so-called male person, or male representative from the society to speak on their behalf, where in the film you can see they are well educated, they can speak for themselves, but they chose to remain silent. And when you choose to remain silent for yourself and for the people around you, and that's when others will hijack your whole movement, and they will fulfill their agenda. In this case, I can identify with these women. I have seen quite a lot of them. Rather, I have seen lesser activist women. Yeah, because whenever, let's say, I went to a person's house, I want to ask something. So the woman of the family, she's there. She will call her husband or her son to talk with me rather than speaking, herself to me. So this happened a lot. I think this narrative has to change now. It has changed a lot, but it will take a lot more time also to change. So unless we speak for ourselves, unless uh, we at least raise our voices, and we foreground, unless we foreground our problems ourselves, it will be difficult, and others will take advantage of this whole thing.
Look, it's interesting for me, like we are actually standing in a different political context. I was actually having a conversation when CAA and their protests happened. They told that Muslim women are coming right now in the foreground. Okay, but it was not the story actually. Even the women have historically have almost come forward, and because they were actually, even if you look at Sikh riots or even Gujarat, okay, you have seen actually the most vocal people were women, and the minority women have always been represented. As when a crisis like this, a riot happens, a issue happens, people are coming. Actually, most of the Sikh riot cases also fought by women. And this gives a different peak, saying that look, and in CAA, the entire thing is that the Muslim women are coming out now. Okay, it was a false claim. All this, left and the other political circles celebrated it, telling that, oh, right now Muslim women are coming out. This is all actually the equal mindset of the right wing, telling that, what they wanted to create is the mindset of the left also. So, your film actually gives a different glimpse. And as a person who grew up in the community, you can also, just reflect on the, the, the space of woman. Okay. I had an Amma and Umma. I come from Malappuram district where I grew up. Okay. And I know that, how powerful my Umma is. So you can give little reflection, outside of the film, saying that the Muslim woman is not what it has been. Can you reflect on it? It will be great, actually.
This we were discussing actually with Devoli Nadi few days back. When we talk about freedom fighters, how many women freedom fighters we can remember easily? That doesn't mean that they were not there. They fought, many of them. Matangini Hajra, and many other women. They were there strongly, but somehow the narrative that came out, they chose the men, to take the lead, or to be showcased. Whenever women came out, whenever women rebelled, they said she was influenced, she was brainwashed, she had some mental issues, all these things. But women were always there, always. And it's same for all the women. It's not just Muslim women. Muslim women were also there. You know, Begum Ruqya is one of the strong women whom we always remember. And you know, her contribution towards the education is no lesser than any other male educationalist who worked you know, that time. So I think it's I think more, I would say that it's the media and the, you know, and their narrative. They chose men to rule, the way the way in general family chose men to, you know, head the family, men to speak on behalf of everybody in the family. So it's the same narrative. It's not the first time that Muslim women came out. Then uh, you know, those who are saying this, you know, they should go through the history a bit. You know, unless we recognize the women's movement in general, we will never be able to understand how many women have, you know, have given, you know, their life for freedom fight, freedom struggle. How many of them have lost their life fighting inside the society for women education, for women empowerment. So it was always there. It's just I don't know, I mean, why people say like this. A little more education is needed. It's just the recognition, that's all.
Denied, which is not recognized.
Yes, yes,
It's not spoken. It's not because you know, it's the way, you know, that's not the problem of Muslim women alone. It's the problem of the, you know,
narrative, the mainstream
narrative
narrative in
who
general.
construct the narrative.
Yes,
And yeah. And yeah, we will actually, I'll with a final remark, I'll finish it. Um, you know, everybody construct, the right wing construct the holy war of uh, the Muslim community as something like terrorism. What I saw is like actually what Quran told, what a holy war is. And it's bold to tell at this point in time. You may get criticism asking that why did you tell at this point in time there is right wing is going to make you so. It's fine. It's there is something called Muslim feminism also exists within this country.
yes,
Okay,
very much.
it's not just a question of like the entire Western feminist discourse, not a question of you know, the left feminine discourse in the country. And there is actually a Muslim and Adivasi feminist discourse exists in this country, is what your film told. And I really thank you for giving this film. I really liked it. And the rawness of the film also I liked. Maybe I might not have liked that much if it was very polished film. But thank you for giving such a film.
Deepu, do you want to invite others if they have any comments, questions?
Yeah, others, anybody have any comments and questions, please? Anybody?
We have Pushpa here. We have Pushpa.
Priyanka, you want to speak something? Why, what is the context in which you decide to produce the film? Priyanka?
Yes, hi.
Yeah.
Hi. So basically, I love the way Farah's subject is something that I really, really loved. And what we are facing today is something that I felt that, yes, we should talk about it. Like triple talaq is a very, very major issue in the country right now or all over. So Farah was doing something for it. And I felt like I am not a feminist, but yes, I do believe in equality. And what Farah is trying to tell is something that I absolutely loved. So yes, so I thought that this is a great chance for me to speak about it, to talk about it, and to just tell people what we think. And if in any ways we can make any kind of difference, it would be a great a great achievement for us if we could make any difference. And first of all, I want to thank Amudan and Deepu sir for giving us this opportunity to come here, talk, and present our thoughts here. So it's really great. And the questions that you came with was really wonderful. Like with a thoroughly watching the film and coming out with such questions, it was very nice. Thank you so much for wonderful questions.
Pushpa? So, yeah, I don't think there is any more
He
questions.
left a message also in the inbox.
Oh, is it? Okay, let
Yeah.
me just check.
Oh no, it's she sent it to me privately. Okay. All right. Yeah.
So, thank you for.
Before you conclude, I want to thank you. You came up with really nice questions, actually, and very well thought question. I found that you understood the whole journey, very deeply. With your filmmaking process and with your work, you asked me those questions which are not generally asked. I was asked. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Da. I look forward for your next film.
I
Okay.
don't know when, but I'm really looking forward to seeing yours.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Thank
thank
you.
you. So thank you everybody. Thank you Farah. Thank you Priyanka. Thank you Deepu. Thank you Pushpa and thank you Ramdas. He was there but he left. So thank you all for joining the festival. Number one, number two, joining the interaction. So we will be having 4 more days. Kindly share with your friends so that more people watch more films. Thank you. Thank you everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mudan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you